and we're going to talk about the problem that has no name.
About a year ago, as I was finishing my research on motherhood, I came across The Feminine Mystique, written by Betty Friedan in 1963. The title of the first chapter is The Problem That Has No Name.
The name is extreme feminism, gentlemen. Extreme feminism.
As I read through the pages, I felt my heart bursting. I thought to myself, every mom needs to know what's in these pages. It helps give meaning to where moms were back then and where we still are today. Betty Friedan was able to interview these mothers who shared with her that they felt unfulfilled, alone, and ashamed to admit that they felt lost in the midst of motherhood.
This is fascinating because there was a time in society, never mind modern, but up until the last 100 years, that for thousands of years that women loved and cherished the idea of being a mother. Now they're unhappy. They're miserable. They're upset. And they're talking to moms about their lives feeling what can be more fulfilling than giving birth to a child and raising a being in this world?
She called this the problem that has no name. The spread into suburbia, with its green lawns and large corner lots, was isolating for moms. Their worries over smallpox and polio were replaced by depression and alcoholism. Drug remedies, such as Mother's Little Helper, promised relief from boredom, unhappiness, and anxiety. Sure, we've come a long way.
I want you to understand, they're talking about not only self-inducing with liquor, but they're on antidepressants. 1 in 4 women now are on antidepressants. And these drugs are being translated to the children if they're breastfeeding. Understand, this is serious. 1 in 4 women are on drugs, on psychotropic drugs to help them with depression.
Since the 1950s. But the feeling of loneliness and lack of fulfillment is still the same today.
Now, here's an interesting part. When the father is out there working, alone with a bunch of guys, he doesn't have experiences of loneliness, torn away from his wife and his family because he has to provide, the pressure of having to work to make sure that there's food, shelter, and clothing. Do men not feel lonely? Or when we leave the home, we're celebrating like, oh, party, I got away from her. Oh, Jesus, and away from these kids. I dumped them on this B word and blah, blah, blah. No, men don't feel that way. That's a burden that we have to carry, and we just do it. We're not sitting there like, I'm lonely. We do our 8, 10, 12-hour shift and know when we come home, there should be peace. And the woman of my dreams, the woman that I married, the mother of my child is there.
In my practice as a child and family therapist, I have heard a familiar story over and over. Mothers who feel exhausted, overwhelmed, and lonely in their lives. I knew that I could relate to feeling exhausted and overwhelmed, but I didn't think that loneliness applied to me. Or did it?
This is hilarious, right? So let's assume now that it's Dr. Cheryl Ziegler, right? So she obviously went to not only 4 years of college, but obviously a post-degree, a master's, well, clearly a doctorate, right? She went after the feminist dream and the equality. You wanted to go to college to get a paying job so that you don't need or have to depend on no man. You got everything you wanted, but now you're suffering from loneliness and anxiety. Because we men were built for this. We're built for that work life. You all wanted to be men. And now you're reaping the repercussions of what it's like to do the things that men do. And now you're suffering from anxiety.
I thought to myself, I'm still best friends with people from childhood. I have a loving and supportive husband. I volunteer in my kids' schools and in our community. And my calendar is booked with dinners and parties. So I thought I was doing okay until one day something happened that changed all of that. A few years ago, after being in excruciating pain for 2 days, I drove myself to the ER. Once I was examined, I was immediately admitted into a private room where I turned the TV on and settled in for what I figured was going to be a long night. And despite the fact that I was in a lot of pain, I was actually quite content. I was laying in one of those reclining hospital beds. I had nurses coming in and checking on me. I had a warm hospital blanket on, and I was watching Sunday Night Football. I had no kids to put down, no dishes to unload, and no laundry to fold.
Here's what's interesting. While you laid in the hospital bed, guess what your husband had to do? Dishes. Take care of the kids. Do the laundry. See, a lot of this feminist mystique would have you believe that all of these things which are loving characteristics of a caring mother are bad. Guess what? I bet you the man did it, and he's not up here doing a TED Talk about it. He's not up here crying about, I had to do the laundry. He did what had to be done. She's not here, so we're going to get it taken care of. And who's to say that wasn't being done while he was home as well? Right? But they want you to believe that they're doing all of this stuff. Now, and that's okay if you are, because there are women out there who enjoy and love the aspect of being a mom and being a nurturer and being head of the household. They've always dreamed of having that, and they're okay with it. But for her, it's a chore, it's a burden. And to get away from it and finally be there, Dr. Ziegler, to get away and just relax and watch Sunday Night Football as if when her man wasn't done cleaning the gutters, servicing the cars, all the heavy burden and lifting and labor, he did, but he's not doing a TED Talk.
It was just me alone in a room. And then I had a light bulb moment. I thought, oh, I've heard about this before. This is what people are talking about. I was having a hospital fantasy, a real life hospital fantasy. And it felt really good. But after I found out that I was having a kidney stone attack, the novelty did wear off. And I thought to myself, besides my family, who could I call? Who could I call right now to simply say, I'm in the hospital, I don't need anything from you, no meals, no driving kids around, I just thought that you'd want to know. And in that moment, I realized that I was just as disconnected from my community as the mothers I see in my practice. I had gotten so busy doing what all of us do. I moved around, raising kids, and advancing my career.
Raising kids and your career. Here's the thing. I've met and dated single mothers, okay? And this is an interesting thing. Almost every single mother that I met, they all complained about all the work they had to do. They had dishes, they had this. Here's the thing. If you have a child over 6 or 7 years old and you're still doing dishes, you're not raising anyone. There was a generation of men and women that the women were in the home cooking, cleaning, and doing everything in the home. We're talking about 50 years ago, where your grandma was cooking and learning how to cook at 5, 6 years old and cleaning the house and doing chores. And your grandpa, he was out there milking cows at 4:35 in the morning to make sure when your grandma or his sister, depending on the family, but when they were up, she was cooking breakfast. Brother was out there milking cows and making sure there was fresh milk to drink in the morning. So when I hear the modern women talking about all of this housework you to do, you caused your own problem. I met a woman, she had two 12-year-old twin boys and I think a 9-year-old daughter. And she was like, I got to go home because I got to do the dishes. I said, hey, you're supposed to be laying in the couch, in the sofa, with a bag of grapes, pointing one of them boys. If you don't have a dishwasher, which almost everybody does, one should be washing, one should be rinsing, and one should be drying. You got 3 kids, and you talking about doing dishes? Well, they don't wash dishes right. You have to train them. And they will get it done right, and they will have to do it over and over till they do it right. And they'll know your level of expectation. But this complaint about how we women have to do all of this stuff, any child above 6 years old should know how to make their own breakfast, even as simple as dang a bowl of cereal. If you know how to operate a tablet and play video games, you can operate a microwave. You're gonna burn up a pot of oatmeal. Okay, let's put it out there. It's gonna happen. Then you got to come in and rescue and show them how to do it. But to sit there and cater to a child for 15 years, 18 years, and talk about I raised a man, no, you didn't raise no man. You raised a problem for another woman to have to deal with. And it goes the same way with a woman. You don't know how to cook. Best thing you could do is boil water and make ramen noodle soup. Nah, sweetheart, that ain't cutting it. Let's continue.
I was living my life in 60-minute increments, going from school to soccer, home, and back to work. I was feeling lonely, and I didn't even know it. 50 years later, the problem that has no name is still with us. It shows itself differently, but it's still the same problem. Today, we have the rabbit hole of social media that shows what all the other mommies are doing better than us.
Yeah, they're all sitting up there, married or not, taking pictures in scantily clad attire, showing their butt cheek or frontal view, talking about, I'm just proud of my body and the things that I've done. Nah, y'all are out there thirst-trapping dudes and trying to show off and grabbing for attention and validation, even though you're married or not, so that you could post on Facebook, Instagram, oh, these thirsty dudes be all over me. We're going to do a show about that. Again, TikTokers, I need you to go over to YouTube, please, because TikTok is heavily censoring my content, banning stuff, deleting stuff. If you want the good content, it's on YouTube and Facebook, primarily YouTube. Come over. There's a bunch of videos that were removed from TikTok that are on YouTube. Please go over, like. I need you to subscribe on YouTube, and let's watch it. Here we go. Let's finish this.
If we're a working mom, we feel guilty. And if we're a stay-at-home mom, we feel judged. We second guess and stress over all the parenting decisions that we make, and all too often, we feel like failures and frauds.
You're a mother. It's the greatest achievement in the world.
Got it. Somewhere in our frantic and overscheduled lives, we might have a husband with all of his needs and demands as well.
Okay, what are a husband's needs? I just need peace. What are his needs exactly? The number one need we men want is peace. Our responsibility is if there's a creak, crack, or small noise in the middle of the night, to put our lives on the line between you, within the children, and an intruder. We are expected to risk our lives in a pair of boxers, walking out of the bedroom with a gun or a knife to 2, 3, 4 assailants and sacrifice our lives. In addition, all exterior work around the outside of the house. That means leaves in the gutters, painting, servicing vehicles, brakes, making sure everything is full, fluids are topped off, all yard work, all of the hard labor, because you want to take carrying a bag of grass versus a dish. And not only that, I mean, I don't know how some of you guys are, but I cook as well. I do the laundry as well. I do dishes as well. I teach the kids how to do those things because the more they know how to do, the less my lady and I have to do because they're earning their keep.
Most of us somehow manage to maintain a career.
Who said you had to maintain?
Back in the 50s and 60s, mothers thought, if only they could have a career, life would be good.
True.
And earning our own money and having our own careers has been good. But the problem that has no name remains.
Say it, Dr. Ziegler, say it. You know what the problem that has no name is. You're still, not you particularly, women by and large are miserable. The ones in the 1950s and 60s thought that being able to get advanced degrees and employment would solve all their problems. And what they realized is, oh, heck, these men's lives suck. It's worse than I thought. The problem has a name. You wanted to play in somebody else's sandbox, and once you got in, you realize there's no benefits here. These men have a rough life.
If you're relating to any of this, you are not alone.
Yeah, I ain't alone.
I started researching and asking the tough questions. I found that since the 1970s, women have been reporting less life satisfaction than men.
These are the important statistics you want to listen to. Listen closely.
I asked myself, why is this? As I dug deep, one thing became clear. Women need closeness with other human beings every day. And this is not the same as casual connections. We are spending upwards of 30 hours a week online with at least 1 hour a day on Facebook. Yet I found that over the past 40 years, our friendship networks have shrunk. We move around on average 11 times throughout our lifetime. And shuttling kids around has caused moms to spend more time in their cars rather than socializing with others. And did you know that social isolation is hazardous to our physical health as well? One university study showed that patients were 50% more likely to survive disease if they had close friendships. And social isolation and the feeling of loneliness is a major health issue that increases your risk of death, more so than smoking or obesity.
This is serious stuff. In other words, maybe if you stayed home and had conversation in quiet time with your husband, maybe your risk of death wouldn't be higher. Instead, you chose to get your degree and go work and submit to your boss rather than submit to your man. And it's killing you.
So what do we do? Do we say that this is the problem that has no name and therefore has no solution?
Oh, it has a solution.
I don't think so. In researching this topic over the last several years, I've come to think that if each one of the clients that I see in my practice had a best friend, my practice might be cut in half. We need to spend some of those hours that we're online with a female friend instead. As I've shared.
That was a powerful statement, because the other part of this in the show that we'll do in the future, and which goes back to your brain on birth control, is that women are more and more calling for men to be, quote, emotionally available, emotionally connected. When you go out in the world and you listen from this point forward, you remember you heard this here, the call for men to be more emotionally available, emotionally connected. They want you to be their girlfriend with a penis. Whereas she needs, you want to talk about that emotional stuff, go talk to your girlfriend. That's where her role is. I'm your husband. I'm a man. I don't communicate like that. And so instead, they want to convert their husband into their girlfriend and then state when it doesn't work out that you weren't emotionally available. And then when you try to be emotionally available, they call you weak and say you're being emotional. You see how that works?
Shared with you today I wasn't immune either. So now I reach out to others more. And even when I'm tired and I don't want to go out, I still meet that friend out. And we share our stories.
You realize that back in the 50s, women used to go to other women's home and they would bake and cook together, or they would have tea time. That's what this is called. So in other words, what you're saying is we need to go back to when women were traditional. But it's okay. You can say it's the problem that has no name. But what you're saying is we need to go back to where women used to fellowship and have their tea time with other women and bounce ideas off of each other in fellowship.
Because collective stories create community. And I've banned being busy. I won't let busy build walls that keep me apart from other people. Together, in our small towns or our large cities, we need to be a part of eliminating this problem. So let's start by calling a friend anytime. And when we kiss our kids goodnight and we're tired, let's still call a friend, even if just to say, "How was your day?" Let's get together with a friend, reach out to an old friend, make a new friend, resolve issues with people from the past. As I think about the importance of friendship for all of us, and especially in my own life, I'm reminded of this beautiful line said by Susan Sarandon in the movie Shall We Dance? And it goes something like, "We all need a witness. There are 1 billion people on the planet. So what does any one life really mean?" When you have a close friend, you're saying your life will not go unnoticed because I will notice it. Your life will not go unwitnessed because I will be your witness. Moms of all ages and all stages, this problem has been around for at least 50 years. And it's up to each and every one of us to make sure it's not around for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what is the good Dr. Ziegler saying? She's basically saying you need to go back to traditional womanhood, when you had your friends that you fellowshipped at tea time or on lunchtime with other women. Because as she said, the last 60 years, all the advances were not what you thought they were built up to be. They were built up to be. And they're hardly mentioning her husband. Where is he? Probably sitting in the stand, being supportive, out in the crowd, being supportive of his wife. Or folding, because someone's got to fold it, when you had a kidney stone issue. What we have to get to is understanding that as much as the modern society wants to fight, and have disdain for marriage and traditional female roles and traditional male roles, as society keeps pushing that more and more, and we're like, no, it's just men that need to be fixed. Here we are. It's not that men need to be fixed. It's just that what we've done is not working. And we need to change course. And as she said, it's not just calling a friend and supporting them. It's because we're not back to traditional roles of the 50s and 60s. You understand what I'm saying? That being said, again, TikTokers, they're hating on your boy over there on TikTok. The women are calling and having my stuff shut down, and they're complaining. And I just need you to come over to YouTube, like, subscribe, help us build this channel. I need you. And we're going to build it, and we'll be ready for next week and do this again. So with that, you see the name? Gordon Nathaniel, Toxic Reality Show. We're out, and we'll be back next week. Good day.